physics. And now I would like to ask my really distinguished colleague, Professor Jiří Bičák, who is really the legend of the general theory of relativity here in the Czech Republic. So Jiří, please, if you will come forward and say a few words as well.
That was a big exaggeration about legend. About 2 years ago, I said to my students that last 60 years, I was lecturing very vividly with chalk running around the table, and next 60 years, I will be lecturing from sitting. So I think that I will probably better sit down. Well, what to say? Well, first I will stand. I will show you 1 kilogram of gravity. And this is exactly actually what fits to this, I think it's autumn rather than summer school, no? Very, very cold summer school. And this is a Czech translation of Kip Thorne's book, Black Holes and Time Warps. Actually, here our present director, Pavel Krtoš, participated, and actually I got it as a present from him. So there is a lot of gravity here, but there is a lot of Prague also. Well, not a lot, 2 lines. But 2 lines, very, very open-minded and very nice. I think that actually 4 or 5 lines, because he speaks how he liked old parts of Prague, historical places, etc. And then he said that after visiting Prague, so whenever somebody asks him what city in the world he likes most, he says San Francisco and Prague. So you can check whether you agree with Kip Thorne or not. Well, I think that now I will better sit down. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So I don't know what to say. You have some little booklets about history of Prague, so and about what science was done here. I think it's very important that really the beginning of 17th century was the enormous flourishing of astronomy here during Rudolf II and Kepler, who was here, as you know. Before them, there were also Czech astronomers, and some of them, I will not bother you with the names, so they were connected with Tycho, and so Tycho Brahe came to the court of Rudolf II. But only thanks to Julian Barber, who is pretty good and leading philosopher of science or historian of science, I would say, I know that there are people like Julian, and I should excuse now to native Englishmen, who consider Kepler as more important almost than Newton. And the reason being that really with the second law, when he came and has clearly indicated that it's really some force at a distance which directs, which changes the straight line of inertial motion to the motion around a body. And that actually Hooke pressed Newton to derive it mathematically, and then he got really his laws. But you know that you can derive Newton's law from Kepler's law as well. And so in this sense, Kepler was the man who really did, at least Julian Barber says that without Kepler, there would be no Principias. How it continued then, I will go very quickly. There was Ernst Mach here, and of course Ernst Mach very much influenced the conception of space, which Einstein considered as the real scenario for nature. And thanks to Mach, I am sure that Einstein was also invited to Prague. We, together here with Pavel and other people, we organized a conference in 2012 in order to recall Einstein. Bob Walt was here, Cliff Will was here, Abhay Ashtekar, and other good leading people were here. And some people were ironical that we tried to organize conference not in the year when Einstein came to Prague, but on the year when Einstein was leaving Prague. And that was 1912, and he came 1911. And the reason is that although Einstein's work in Prague is mostly known because of bending of light, that is observable, and Einstein immediately started to look around observatories where somebody really could confirm it, and these stories are well known. So I think that actually most important work which Einstein did in Prague was the last paper, and that was the answer to Max Abraham about future theory of gravity. And there Einstein clearly realized that field equations were nonlinear, that coordinates lose their meaning, so it will not be that the distance is x2 minus x1, but there will be some metric tensor which will be there and determine what are the real lengths. It was there where he realized that principle of equivalence will have only local meaning, that it will not be globally, so that you will need really something like curved space. Some people say, because he was in great connection here with Georg Pix, that he already knew that he should do Riemannian geometry, but he did it immediately after then changing to Switzerland back, and in collaboration with Grossman, they had almost the GR in hands. It was a mistake actually which Grossman did in the Newtonian limit, that they could not reproduce Newtonian law or Newtonian limit. Well, in any case, how it was here, I think that the first man who did gravity was interested but not actively was Záviška, very nice and very intelligent man who unfortunately died in concentration camp, or at the end of during the march from concentration camp. And then came, I think, the real first active relativist here, and that was Professor Miroslav Brdička. And it's quite funny, Brdička wrote some papers which are actually not known much. But of course, a very diligent guy like Gary Gibbons in Cambridge, so he who likes names, so he wrote a paper where he does not quote Brdička, but it's about sectors and killing tensors, and it's called Goryachev, Chaplygin, Kovalevskaya, and Brdička, Ederle, Napivit, and PP wave spacetimes. And so the paper by Brdička is not quoted there, but still it is there. You must realize, however, that the situation was not easy. Brdička was working in Dublin on this paper. He came first to work with Schrödinger, then he worked with Heitler, but this paper was really written by himself alone. But the times were difficult, and when he returned back, so this was sometimes at the end of 50s, so he was not allowed to do general activity. He was never a party member and was considered as not really completely reliable man. And I am saying it as a curiosity because he wrote very thick and very deep book on continuum mechanics. And of course, his inclinations were clearly reflected. You will find on the first 100 pages just Riemannian geometry, which is not much used than later. And then they came other people. Brdička inspired Karel Kuchař, about whom you probably have heard. Unfortunately, Karel was, this was not unfortunate, it was very fortunate that he was supervising my diploma thesis, etc. But then, as you know, came other people, and that was Russian soldiers. And the Russian soldiers came in August 21st of 1968, and Karel Kuchař left Prague 4 days after this invasion and went to Princeton and collaborated with Wheeler, etc. Karel had a very good relations with Kip Thorne, and I knew Kip Thorne also because he was here in '67 on big conference of International Astronomical Union. I will try to finish till 9. And Kip was enormously kind man, and so he organized for me invitation to come to Caltech for postdoc, and this invitation came sometimes in the middle of 1969. And I was then fighting 2 years almost, well, 1.5 years with bureaucracy to try to get out. I was also not a party member, etc. Eventually, thanks to various connotations, I could come, but I had to leave family here. And I was there only for 5 months, although the original invitation was for 1 year. But after that, or during already preparation for this trip, I not only read all detective stories by Chandler, because his hero is running in Pasadena very quickly on cars, but I was also trying to learn lectures by Gibson about relativistic astrophysics. And so after then returning back to family here in 1971, I started to lecture on relativistic astrophysics as well as relativity. And then came younger people, these very clever people like Pavel Ketoš, David Kubizniak, and others. And so there were Olda Semerak, and many of them are not here. And so there is now our school which does really real relativistic astrophysics in Astronomical Institute, led by Vladimir Karas and others. And there are more theoretical relativists, and these are here at our department. I'm sorry, I will have in 1 minute to say you that it was in Prague where the black hole was invented. And it was in Prague in 1913, and it is clearly described in this little booklet by Gustav Mehring, which is called Black Sphere. The story here goes as follows. There were Indians, 2 Indians, coming to Europe with a special instrument. The instrument was a big vessel. And from the top of the vessel went a golden rope. And when you connected this golden rope to forehead, then whatever your images appeared in the vessel. So, for example, when one of Indians took this golden rope on his forehead, a beautiful Indian landscape appeared there. Gustav Mehring had some problems with lawyers. So when a lawyer connected it to his forehead, there was some very messy pictures inside. And once it happened that people tried to convince one typical Austrian-Hungarian Oberleutnant, that means soldier, Kabacek, and everybody shouted, Kabacek, you should try it, you are a big thinker. And Kabacek really tried it. And he put this golden rope on his forehead, and then suddenly there was a black sphere hovering freely in the glass vessel. The astonished Brahman took the vessel. However, as he moved it, the sphere hovering inside touched the glass wall. At the very same moment, the glass broke, and the splinters, as if being attracted by a magnet, we of course know that it is gravity, not magnet, have fallen into the sphere and disappeared there without leaving a trace. I always like this to say that black holes have no hair. All multiple moments get radiated out, as we know, instead of those, except of those which belong to care, where it's very carefully must be tuned. The black round body was hovering in free space. In fact, this thing did not look as a sphere. Rather, it looked, and really it is in this book, you can check, at least those who read check, was looked as a black hole. It was something absolute, a mathematical nothingness. What was happening next was only a necessary consequence of the nothingness. Everything in the neighborhood of the nothingness has, as a consequence of a natural necessity, fallen inside. We know this is GR, this natural necessity, fallen inside and changed immediately also into the nothingness, as it disappeared without a trace. All multiple moments, no hair radiated out. Indeed, suddenly a powerful stream of air arose as the air was sucked into the hole. Pieces of paper, ladies' gloves, and veils were dragged inside, etc. The only people who remained were 2 Indians. The whole universe, which Brahma created, Vishnu keeps going, and Shiva destroys, will subsequently fall into the sphere, said solemnly Rajendra Lala Mitra. This, my brother, is a curse for that we went to the West. What does it matter, murmured Hossein, once we all must go into the realm of negative being anyway. I hope that it will not be for you the curse that you came here and that you will leave after a week very enlightened. Sorry for taking from